Welcome to the DJs of DeFi. This is officially episode 10, and we have a special guest with us this evening, Tim Frost, CEO of Yield App. Please like and share. That's what Ice is telling me to say off camera. Please like and share. We do these streams 2 times a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays, at 7 o'clock Bangkok time. And we're the DJs of DeFi. We're a pseudonymous team for the project Cdzexchange, which is a crypto derivatives exchange coming out very, very soon. We actually have a very big announcement tomorrow. We'll hold our lips till then. Big partnerships, Parsec, DVG, Dow Ventures. We just announced our pre-IDO launch pool at the beginning of this week. It is live, it will be live on Monday. Go register. You can earn a ton of money, free money, just for staking coins. Go check it out. And today, actually, we just launched our DJ dog meme coin competition. Very long way of saying we want to tap into the meme coin trend because we think that's a good way to get noise. I mean, let's be honest. That's why we're doing it. But yeah, we have an avatar, DJ dog avatar on our Instagram. Go check it out, Cdzexchange on Instagram. And all the details are, we're doing a $5,000 giveaway of CDs, which is kind of a big deal pre-IDO. So go check it out. And then without further ado, I'm going to introduce Tim Frost. Hello.
Hey, thanks, MC Liquid and DJ Chopper. So you guys are...
Our pleasure.
Did I just out myself?
Yeah.
I just outed myself.
You did it. You've been doxed. You doxed yourself, MC Liquid.
No.
It's all good, man. You're good company here.
Good thing I'm so famous.
Thanks, guys. Well, very cool show, man. I'm glad to be here.
Great.
Pleasure to have you.
Glad to have you here, mate. Are you back are you back in Phuket or mainland, or where are you?
I'm in Bangkok.
Okay, you're in Bangkok. Okay.
Yep, at the HQ.
Hopefully get to catch up before you leave. And DJ Choppa, my esteemed co-host, joining me. And so let's jump in it. So Tim, we kind of kick off just because we're in this fucking crazy market right now. I don't know if it's crazy, really. It's almost perennial. Are we in? And I'll put the question to you first. Are we in a bull or bear market? What do you think?
Oh man, it's a tough question. I guess that's the constant framework where we're in. So I guess you have to look at it like a percentage wise. So we talked to a number of funds. I mean, we obviously manage a $200 million fund at Yield App. Right now that's growing every day, and understanding where trends are going is pretty vital to the business. And so I am more leaning. I was quite bearish. I am more leaning towards that we still will be in kind of a bullish market in maybe the coming weeks or months. We still have I would say I guess more all-time highs again. So if I had to lean, I would lean towards bullish.
If you had to put a percentage on it, because I mean everybody's speculating. I've heard so many different. I've heard like, in the next 6 weeks in September, because we're all, it's, and then you hear, of course, all the bears, like, it's about, you're just pushing hopium out there. And I know Coach K he's just all about the numbers. He doesn't give a shit either way. What do you think? What do you think the leading indicators are that we might have that second bull before the end of the year?
Well, I think this time, it's just such different external factors. It's the only way we actually, really get to a bullish market again is new capital coming in. Right. I think interest is still there. And I think if there is a catalyst to start to move the market up, you will see people, rejoin the market. Talked to obviously a lot of retail investors, just people I know, just always like to gauge kind of where they're at. So I think it's that. I mean, at this moment, I don't think anyone's looking to kind of jump in, but we've remained fairly stable in this range here for some time until we kind of will break out of it one way. Either up to new all-time highs or back down to more of a kind of a bearish sentiment. So. But yeah, I think it just depends on the daily traders, right? And I do recommend that most people really shouldn't be, trading too frequently, right? So if you ask my bull or bear, I mean, yeah, I'm extremely bullish on the future of crypto. So, sure. And most traders end up kind of getting wrecked. So, you can try to guess the market or beat the market, or you can just, practice that hodl or diamond hands or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, it's I'm not smart enough to trade, so I don't even try. I'm certainly underwater in my portfolio. I'm sure a lot of people are. So I feel like in most cases you don't have any choice but to hold. So, but yeah, I mean it's a big question, because I was asking myself, well, where's this new money going to come in from? Or because a lot of people got wrecked, in the last 2 months. So I don't know, is it coming in from retail, or is it coming in? I hear there's a lot of backdoor OTC stuff that obviously isn't being reflected in the market, and they're just accumulating all day long and letting the market just stay low while they accumulate.
Definitely.
Sorry, Tim, go ahead.
No, I mean, we definitely see that. I mean, we work with a lot of large funds, that just kind of we are working with on a daily basis, and so we are seeing a lot of accumulation, and it usually is quite quiet, like you said. So go ahead, DJ.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards that too. I think generally retail buying is generally driven primarily psychologically, and I don't think we'll have a lot of mum and dad investors or random people throwing in their money until we start seeing new all-time highs being made, because they're generally not wanting to invest when it's low and going down. So I think we're waiting for this rush of new capital, or for these sort of a supply squeeze to start coming from all of this OTC buying, which I'm hoping is happening soon. Because I mean, we've been crabbing for 8 weeks now for Bitcoin on the around the 30 to 34,000 level. Yeah, that's a pretty long time. I mean, that's almost a sustained bear market, in my opinion. It's 2 months, so that's significant. And I think there's probably still a fair few retail investors that are yet to be flushed out of the market and be properly scared off. And I reckon maybe one more dump before we resume uptrend.
Is that right?
I honestly hope not. But
you think there might be another dump? Okay.
There could be. I would be very surprised if we went below 25K.
What? Shut your mouth. I don't want to hear those words.
I sincerely hope I'm wrong.
Okay. Well, look, we'll leave it. We'll leave that speculation to the side. So, in other news, and this seems to be on trend now for the last several months. CBDCs, European Central Bank. There. I mean, we almost every show we were talking about CBDCs. I mean, this is just almost, you can't ignore it. Look, we've touched on it before. It's validating sort of the whole technology play on crypto and blockchain, what have you. Ultimately, think it will bear more people into the space. But Tim, what do you think? What do you think about CBDCs in general? What's your take on it?
I think it's positive overall. I mean, we're seeing the adoption, and people have, understood that the technology and the ledger system. I mean, despite what is often reflected in the news, there's complete transparency. So, eventually, all money will be digital eventually, right? And so if it's blockchain based currency, I think it's a likelihood that, there will be great adoption of it. I mean, because the governments say they want to be able to, track money, and there's no better system than a blockchain based currency. So I think it's inevitable.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, unfortunately, do you think they're likely to operate their CBDCs on their own blockchain, or adopt something more like, or build out their own sort of layer one type solution? I mean, doing it on Ethereum seems like the most obvious scenario at the moment, given that all the infrastructure is already there, right? And they don't have to already build their own blockchain, but then they sort of don't have the control that they would want over that ecosystem.
Well, it'll be a permission blockchain, right? So I think that's the one thing it will go towards. It'll be one of these blockchain as a service institutions will ultimately be building these out. I mean, they need permission blockchains, because you can't have irreversible transactions in a kind of a government run digital currency realm. I mean, they why they need the blockchain is they just need the ledger. They need that. They need to be able to just track that currency in real time and have that historical immutable ledger and disposable. But knowing it's governments, they'll probably always have their back door, right? So they'll be able to kind of figure out. But at least it's progress, right, that we're seeing, and and I don't think it's going to deter what's happening in the Bitcoin and Ethereum world.
Interesting.
No, certainly not. And on to other news, with this, the whole China crackdown on mining. Obviously, they've sort of dispersed around the world. Nearest neighbor, Kazakhstan, is now officially the third largest hash power, I'm assuming, in the world. If I'm reading this right. So, which makes sense. They have cheap energy there. I've always wanted to go to Kazakhstan, actually, but this is like, there's two threads here. One, is this a good thing ultimately for BTC? I know a lot of people say yes, that China's kind of out of the play now. Well, I don't know. They've sort of dealt themselves out of it. The other thing is, it was a short-term interruption with the hash power. Now I think hash power is going back up. What are your thoughts on this whole sort of mining dispersion, and is it good, is it bad, or does it make any difference at all?
Yeah, well, I think it's definitely a shakeup in the market, and that's probably led to a little bit of instability. I think it's phenomenal, a phenomenal act that's now kind of underway. And I was talking to last night. I was talking to David Johnston. He's one of our advisors at Yield App, and a close friend of mine. And he's got a massive crypto mining operations that he's been building out in Texas. They've been able to lock in cheap electricity. They have all the infrastructure, and so things couldn't be better for where they're at. I mean, they're seeing a massive wealth transfer. I mean, he called it last night. He said this is the best thing that could ever happen to the West. I mean, you said this is literally a $1 trillion wealth transfer that's happening right now, and it's China, I don't know if they know what they're doing, but they're literally moving the entire industry to the West right now. And so I think it's phenomenal. And in Kazakhstan, I mean, for those nations that want to be able to adopt to this, I mean, the amount of wealth that'll be kind of generated in a country like Kazakhstan, I think that's such an amazing and way they've embraced it from the government in those communities there. So I'm all for it. I think we needed to get mining out of China, and if this is how it's going to happen, then it's good overall for the industry.
Yeah, I think that's an important point that Tim made, actually, just meaning that it's sort of handing over control to the West. I think that actually presents a really big opportunity for the US to adopt Bitcoin as some sort of base level measuring stick type currency, given that they now have the opportunity to control either a large portion of the hash power or a majority of the hash power in opposition to China, and China most likely are going to do their own central bank digital currency because they're a totalitarian regime and they want to maintain that sort of control.
Yeah, so I think the Chinese aren't stupid. That's what I think. So they're well ahead of the game with CBDCs. That's already it's well known. So I want to know. I kind of scratched my head a little bit because it would have been smarter for the Chinese to actually keep on to the miners, because then they would have influence and control on anything that is threatening their play, right? So I'm asking myself, what don't we know? What don't we understand? Because the Chinese, they're not stupid. So is there a scenario where this is actually good for China? Has anybody asked themselves that question?
Well, I've heard people, and I've actually thought this myself, as wondering whether China has used this opportunity to, instead of force Bitcoin miners out of the country, instead maybe they've sort of brought them all under the one roof and sort of nationalized mining for themselves. So that means they've got full control over the people that are doing the mining, and then they can also start ramping it up from a centralized perspective and sort of take control over it. And the only way that they would credibly be able to do that is push all of this FUD to begin with, to make everybody on the outside think that this isn't happening, and then all of a sudden turn up all of this hash power and really pump the price up. Because at the same time that they shut all this mining down, they would be taking custody of all of the Bitcoin that these miners hold, in addition to hamstringing the network. So that's certainly a possibility.
I like that answer. I like that answer because that to me, that sounds like something China would do. What do you think about that, Tim?
Well, dealing with Chinese, I mean, they're always, they always got something planned, right? So I'm not, I can't believe it's as simple as that, unless there's just a massive shipment, because maybe they just couldn't have control like they wanted, which that also doesn't necessarily make sense. But the only entertaining conspiracy I've kind of heard recently is this, like, well, that maybe they have devised this plan to offload all their old mining equipment onto the West, while rolling out, superior miners coming into the near term.
I like that.
Well, I don't like that, but I think it wouldn't surprise us, right?
Yeah, and I mean, it's not about what we want. It's just, I think, when you look at one of the most powerful countries, arguably now could be the superpower. I mean, China's. I know that we were playing this GDP games there for a while, last couple of years, but I think, again, China, that everything they've done has been hyper calculated, because they're thinking not months, they're thinking years in advance. And having been there, having lived there, having understand like just a very snippet. They have, like, plan B, C, D, E, F, G. Like, there's all these different I wouldn't underestimate anything that they're doing. So whatever they're doing overtly, maybe giving, to what you're saying, DJs, is these signals that they're shutting down. But I wouldn't be surprised if, boom, 6 months from now or 12 months from now, this narrative changes in a different direction. So to be continued. And speaking of China, former China countryman CZ is getting smacked around a little bit with all these regulations in the UK, in Japan. I've seen a lot of these banks just refusing to do transfers to or from Binance. So that, I don't know if that's a leading indicator of just those. I don't know what's going on there, to be honest. I don't know if that's just some sort of side FUD, or if that is a leading indicator that these these countries just want to, you know, also again want to control these on ramps or what? I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that, Tim?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it's a global shift right now. I mean, it's really hit hard, and obviously it was, you know, it's been quite coordinated. And you know, these things we've known have been coming for quite some time, but you know, until they actually get kind of rolled out, you know, CZ has always been on the cutting edge, and you know, kind of leading the space as is, and you know, I think it just caught up to them, and obviously, you know, people want to go after probably the largest guy in the, you know, the biggest tree in the forest, right? They want to go after, and it's only going to get, I think, more and more strict from here. I mean, we see this, you know, at Yield App, you know, right now we see where the landscape's going. You know, there's two options that you can do in the industry. You can either go full regulated or go full DeFi, right? So I think there's no kind of middle ground. I think that middle ground is basically where, you know, Binance has lived, right? Having, you know, 2 Bitcoin a day withdrawal limits for, you know, which at one point was over $100,000. Like, it's, you know, with no KYC. I mean, you know, it's now caught up to them, you know, and everything that they're doing, all the financial products. I mean, just, it's been pretty running ragged for years, and you know, now, well, they'll have to make some changes. They'll have to adopt and adjust, or it doesn't necessarily end so well.
I think
so. Go ahead, DJ.
I think that actually one of the most interesting parts of this is that it opens the door for more competition and other exchanges to really ramp up. I think FTX is in a really good position at the moment to take the #1 spot if they wanted to. I know they're spending an absolute shitload of money lobbying US senators and stuff, and they're spending a crap ton of money marketing themselves, buying stadiums and naming rights and everything. They're really pushing hard. And this news is a pretty heavy blow to Binance when they've got competitors like FTX really hot on their heels, who are more or less backed by the US government at this stage. So yeah, I think that's something to keep an eye on for sure.
It's a good point, and you might even see it encouraged, right? I mean, there's so much lobby and so much politics going on, so it definitely wouldn't be a surprise, right? If, you know, if those kind of working with the highest levels of government, right, are kind of getting this position quite comfortably for themselves in the future.
Well, I mean, it also begs the question. I mean, maybe this will kind of is it a Binance thing, or is it just a centralized exchange thing? You know, because you would think if they're going after Binance, then they would go after also Coinbase and some of these other.
I don't think so. Yeah, but it's more. I mean, I think it's more, you know, the way Binance, you know, they run shop, right? I mean, it's because they were having such high withdrawal limits with no KYC.
Okay.
I mean, you talk to people. I mean, talk to Coach K about like Binance's policies when he got scammed for, you know, like $250,000, right?
I remember that. Yeah.
And this is like they run it so like, so this is, I mean, cowboy as it gets is the way they run it. So you know, the Coinbase is right. I mean, they're, you know, full KYC, AML, you know, reporting. I mean, they're crypto, but they're as close as you can pretty much get, right, to, you know, towards this, right? And now they're a publicly traded vehicle. So I think there's so many different variations of you know, different crypto companies in the space, right? I mean, you have said full DeFi to, you know, full regulated, you know, exchanges that, you know, oftentimes they hardly do any business because they're so tight and can't even get clients at those levels. But it's all across the spectrum, so it's natural that eventually it does move towards, you know, very regulated. I mean, these are financial instruments, so I don't think anyone should be surprised on kind of where it's going to ultimately keep going.
I think it's important to add to that Binance doesn't have any one central point that it operates from, apart from like an office out of Hong Kong or something. They've got people working all over the world, whereas Coinbase and FTX are pretty much anchored in the US. and they're more than happy to play ball with regulators and stuff, as Tim said. So they lean towards those sort of companies because they're easier to control in a way.
Well,
far more predictable.
Yeah, we're gonna bookmark that one because I think this will go into our main topic, but because it's always that CFI DeFi discussion, isn't it? So let's put a pin on that one for a moment and just veer off course just a little bit. So in this crab-like market, as DJ says, Axie Infinity is smashing it. Crypto gaming, speaking of regulated, non-regulated NFT stuff, I've been hearing about these guys just for the last couple of days. It's funny when one of these coins start pumping, everybody starts talking about it. I don't really know too much about them. Do you know anything about them, Tim?
No, I don't really. I don't really follow too much of like the altcoin in the world, to be honest.
What about you, DJ? DJ, do you have any comments on this?
Yeah, so I followed Axie a little bit. I first heard about them like start of last year, and it I think I can't remember what the ticker for the Axie token is, but anyway, when I first came across them, they were sitting at about 2 cents, and I think today they topped $32. So they've done. Yeah, dude, it's absolutely crazy. They've done well over 100x.
Holy shnikes!
Absolutely wild. But I think the most important part to this whole story is people in developing nations and poorer nations are starting to be able to earn wages from playing these games, which is just crazy. And the economic impacts of that have not even come close to being realized. It's going to be really hard for smaller nations and states and stuff to deal with this because it's more or less going to pull people out of the real economy and put them into a meta economy and meta government online when they don't really have to interact with their own local governments at all. And it's going to be a really hard thing to deal with, I think, in time, because these types of games and these types of play to earn mechanisms and stuff are only going to become more popular. I mean, this is only one game, and the scope for gaming in crypto is gigantic, and it's going to explode. I think it's going to cause a lot of problems, but it's really exciting. There's a shitload of upside there for people who want to explore it.
Is it gaming or gambling? Is it like
well, yeah, it's a bit of both. I mean, I saw a video today of somebody filming in a room of people just playing like 30 Axie Infinity games on one screen at a time with 20 or 30 screens in the room, all cycling through this Axie Infinity stuff. So they're not actually playing the game. They're just farming it to earn income. But I mean, that's sort of inevitable. That's been happening for ages in other non-blockchain related games. People selling RuneScape gold or World of Warcraft gold. There's nothing new there. I mean, at the moment, people in Venezuela earn a better living farming gold in RuneScape than they do working an actual job. The only difference is blockchain stuff sort of legitimizes it a little bit, and it's all stored on a ledger, so you can keep track of it a bit easier.
That's crazy. So where you say poor economies are emerging markets, like where are these primarily? You said Venezuela. Where else is this taking place?
So it's pretty big in Venezuela just because of their hyperinflation and their shitty market at the moment. But they're not necessarily a developing economy. But I know in like the Philippines and Malaysia, Indonesia, it's really big over there, and it's only going to get bigger. They have like an incredibly literate or an incredibly technologically literate populace who are all primarily between 10 and 30 years old. That's where the biggest age distribution band is. So that group's only going to grow. So that's only going to get bigger and bigger. And I've got some pretty strategic investments in that space that I'm hoping are going to do really well, just because I think the scope for growth there is just massive, and it's only going to get bigger.
Okay. All right. Well, let's round back the corner we just came from. Let's just as an entry point, how would we pull the likes of these emerging players from these gaming I guess, verticals into the DeFi space. I mean, I think where we have common ground with Yield is we're all in the DeFi game. It's an exploding space. I think we've barely scratched the surface. What Tim, what do your users look like, and like where are you going? How are you growing your user base? Like, where are you getting new users from? Like, so what do they currently look like, and then where would you be expecting them to come from in the future?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, actually, we just did a good market analysis recently, and I think it was a little bit over even do. And so, our users are a little bit different than most. I think crypto users overall. We had 35 to 50-year-old men is made up of over kind of 95% of our clientele, which is quite surprising. Yeah. So it was, but and then I started thinking about, okay, well, it does make sense, right? I mean, we earned kind of passive yields, with us, earn up to 20% APY. It's not the crazy, 4,000% yields that you see a lot of times around the crypto land, and that's probably going to attract more the youth, right? That are more just going to be kind of gambling. It's just more people that will have jobs, have lives, and don't have all day to kind of manage their crypto portfolio. So, it makes a lot of sense in where we kind of came from after kind of reviewing it. But where are they going to come? I mean, well, I think the most emerging economy in the world, or just the zone in the world, is Southeast Asia, and so. We are based here, and we want to put a lot of focus here, kind of moving forward. Just so much opportunity, so much wealth being generated in this part of the world, and so I don't think there's any better place to go. But as DJ was talking about, DJ Choppa was talking about earlier, I mean, it's incredible. I mean, we're doing work in the developing world. I mean, God, it's just. It's incredible. Like I get to check out this Axiom game now after this, but it's incredible now with the internet. Like, people can now earn a living, and oftentimes, like you guys said, it's more than what they would ever make, like doing what they're kind of set out to do. And so the whole global economy has a chance to be really disrupted, I think, the next 20 years, because this is catching on like wildfire. Right. And be able to earn money online, and these opportunities won't always exist forever, but it's gonna keep getting bigger and bigger. But if you can provide value, and if there's a value you can generate that other people deem as value, I mean, there's whole economies that are just emerging off this, which is, it's just God, you couldn't even forecast this just a few years ago, and where this is all going.
Yeah, it's interesting. What do you think from it doesn't even have to be sort of the gaming DeFi, or just maybe general. What would be the biggest barrier to entry in DeFi? Like, what makes it? Why isn't DeFi even more mainstream than it is?
Well, it's there's just the simple things that we've kind of built a company around, and they still persist today. The complexity. DeFi is not easy. Like, it's really not. And I've talked to you guys and your team at CDs, and it's really exciting what you guys are building. But I mean, this is going to take a while to bridge to a kind of a mainstream audience, right? And so using Uniswap is fairly simple, but the security around it, I mean, MetaMask, should anyone really like hold their money in a web browser? Like, I mean,
not even that. I mean, it takes hours to properly explain to somebody and to learn to teach somebody the skills that they need in order to actually use MetaMask properly and safely. And that's just not a practical way to go about doing things. Generally speaking, I mean, you need to be able to abstract away all of this complexity for it to become properly mainstream.
One of my guys told me today, he was like, yeah, MetaMask, it's the best we got. And it's like, it's beta at best, right? So it's,
yeah.
And so I think that we're still got a long ways to go before we can, move to mainstream. And now, if you want to interact with your MetaMask with a ledger, you gotta load Ledger Live, and there's this whole it's this is definitely not really scalable at this point. And so as many people are already there, and as many more people are just joining the networks on a constant basis. I mean, it's already a very good spot. And so it'll slow. I mean, there's cool people building, nice user-friendly products that are secure and safe, but then the scams is the other part, right? Because it's crypto and there's no recourse, right? I mean, there's rug pulls, there's all sorts of craziness that's gonna go on, and as an average user, like, how do you know where you should trust, right? So it's
Trust dog coins. That's where I put all my trust. Dog coins.
The wise man, sir.
Well, I mean, it's funny. Like, I think we've touched on this. It is a bit thematic because we touched on this last episode. There's a few choke points, right? One is bringing more people into the space by whatever means, and the other thing is, how do we make the usability, the UI, UX better, right? So these are all sort of interlinked choke points. And, our argument around, just on the joke, around the mean point is, while for people that have been in this space for a while kind of roll their eyes, it is, and look, it's candy. Like, I mean, it's candy, but it's bringing people en masse, and maybe obviously in a very speculative way, but it gets them exposed. And then at that point, when it works or doesn't work out for them, then they start asking questions. Okay, what's this all about? Right. So
I think it's doing damage, though. Honestly, man,
really?
I think it's going to do damage. I don't think Dogecoin is going to end well for anyone, but that's personal kind of view.
Yeah.
Unless you just happen to buy early and sell out of top of the market, and and enough people kind of the greater fool above you. But it doesn't have value. I mean, there's no underlying value there. There's nothing sustainable. It's nothing. I mean, it's not Bitcoin. It's not Ethereum. I mean, I think there's. I just don't. I think it's hurting the momentum personally.
Mm.
Do you think it can get to $1, Tim?
I hope not.
Down only for Doge.
Well,
I guess you're a big Doge guy, so.
No.
Not at all. I don't own any Doge. Full disclosure, I don't own any dog coins.
Yeah, and also to be clear, I think I mean, as we mentioned at the top of the show, we're doing this campaign, but I look, for better or for worse. I mean, you won't know until hindsight whether it's done damage or if it's helped at all. But obviously, Elon has pumped it, and I still don't quite understand why. Everybody speculates as to why he is, but I still think the exposure to, at least to the market, and then also challenges. Again, going back to this concept of money. If people want, if you want to go back years, you look at these fads. That were non-tech related. I remember, I think it was my dad, I don't know, that thing called a pet rock. These kind of meme type trinkets or whatever it was, or Beanie Babies or something, like, just intrinsically had no real value, but for whatever reason, people grabbed onto them, and you have this hype phase, whatever. And I think that is that's what this is tapping into. In I don't know. Like I said, it brings volume and activity into the space, and it's kind of like, again, when you look at these bubbles, the .com bubbles, or the .com bubble that happened, and there was just a bunch of money in it, but out of the ashes, came new things, and sort of gave way to something else. So on face value, okay, no, I mean, we all laugh about it, but it is still. Again, it's still people exposing. It's educating people. I got wrecked, in the ICO days, with all the, I'm laughing at myself because I remember I bought Jesus coin. Because I'm like, why not? Why not? So like, I don't know. I think definitely people are gonna get hurt. It's in this space. I don't know. You're gonna get burnt. It just, even if you know what you're doing, you're gonna get burnt. It's just how we are right now. I mean, it's just, things are very wild. It is Wild West.
Yeah, but there's some things that have a chance of succeeding and they don't, right? So,
yes.
And I get what you're saying. Like, as long as capital is inflowing and great teams and entrepreneurs are being funded, it will lead to an evolution, right? And that's exciting. But if it's flooding into, I mean, like Shiba, I mean, there's nothing besides, well, some hell of a marketing team. I give them that. But besides the marketing aspect, I mean, is there any value? Is there a reason why, these things will remain here? Or is it just going to set up to make a few people very wealthy and wreck a lot of other people?
Yeah, there's no utility behind them. That's the biggest problem I have with them. I think they are, as you say, Tim, I think they're more or less doomed to fail unless somebody is able to build some sort of utility into them. And at that point, I think if somebody's able to build utility into one of these coins, then I think that could be a genuine catalyst to some serious adoption. If one of them could actually succeed, then yeah. But that's obviously a huge if.
Stranger things have happened. I'll reserve judgment. And I feel like we would be hypocritical if we completely castigated them by trying to tap into the very energy it could give us a little bit of attention. So I say more power to them. We're all responsible for ourselves. We should be accountable for our own actions. If people get wrecked, it sucks. But I think it's eyes wide open, unless people are purposely trying to be malicious and rob people, then I'm like, okay, go for it. If people buy into it, they buy into it. So
it's fair enough. No, it's a valid point. I mean, and I have to actually take that back on Dogecoin a little bit. I mean, because when you got the world's richest man, that's kind of helped to lead this whole thing. I mean, there might be something that comes out, that's something unforeseen. So, for all we know, so it is fair enough. As long as there's enough people working on to solve a problem or to create something better or more utility or our entire ecosystem. I mean, that's it is quite a valid point. So, but in community is everything. So. So that's it is actually quite true. I don't know. I guess just go on both sides, right? Like, if these things were not, if there were never like massive swings in these markets, it would be, I would say they wouldn't gather as much attention, but the sustainability would go on, right? I mean, Doge has been here since 2013, so it keeps raging on.
Yeah, I think for the power of the masses, they're easily accessible to the masses as an idea.
And I definitely don't want Doge haters on me. So.
Well, look, I mean, I think, and this is the other thing, that this is another, I think, good topic to kind of dig into a little bit, and while we're kind of, I would say we're largely agnostic. But yeah, it goes into the whole tribalism of the space, and people, if you're not part of us, you're a shitcoin, which obviously the maxis, that's their thing, you either with us or against us. And then all these other coins, well, I don't know. It's certainly a lot better than it was 3-4 years ago. I mean, those were outright scams. I mean, many of those projects, I was, unlucky to be not part of them, but to invest in a few of those. They were complete, like, runaway schemes. So, and I would never defend those for a minute, for a second. But I think if you're out there doing something, whether, if people buy into it and there's value there, let them decide what that value is. I think that's what the inspirational thing behind the technology anyways. People decide what they think is value, right? Who are we to decide? It's people collectively decide, yep, we think that has value, or no, we don't. And people self-organize around that, you know? It's like religion, you know, you self-select into, well, we believe in that for that reason, and that's how religion starts to gain momentum. So this is kind of like, in a way, like a new, it is kind of a new religion. Maybe I think there's probably, I'm sure there's somebody writing a paper about that right now. So anyway, look, so going away from the mean topics, and maybe even talking about the critical mass idea, you know, and Tim, this might lend a little bit to your background, you know, where we were talking about that the complexity of DeFi and crypto in general, and looking at, I think the ones that have helped bridge from traditional to crypto, they're called so-called neobanks, you know, like the likes of Revolut and Venmo and some of these apps. Where do you see them playing? Do you kind of see them kind of merging into crypto? Or do you see them like displacing traditional? How do you see them a bridge? Or like, how do you, because I have both, right? We've had experience all, I have a traditional bank account, I have a Revolut, and then, you know, I obviously have now, you know, not only do I have crypto, but I have like crypto cards now that I'm using to purchase stuff. So what are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. I mean, there is a convergence that we've already seen, and so there was, and I would say it's kind of been almost a marriage that's kind of been brought together. You know, I've done a lot of work in the digital banking space. Well, Yield App is my third digital banking startup, and you know, there's a big kind of, well, almost missing kind of fit to where these neobanks would ultimately kind of fit in. So, you know, Revolut, I mean, they've, you know, desperately wanted to kind of adopt crypto. You know, they have to some degrees, and it's actually been their largest kind of revenue producing kind of segment of the business now. And so I think that their investors are probably wide awake to the different possibilities. And so they're, you know, you're seeing this oftentimes because I would say digital banking is a very tough space to kind of crack and actually, you know, I guess almost earn a business. You can drive up a valuation. You can do what the N26 is. You said the Monzos, the Revoluts of the world, and they play that you know, constant valuation game and keep raising more and more for you know, venture capital. But in the end, you're you know, they're starving for actual kind of revenue, and you know, I think crypto has been a natural bridge. You know, Equibank, you know, who I was you know, big part of this team for the past few years, and helped take, you know, them from an idea to market. I mean, they're a crypto friendly offshore, you know, high net worth and corporate bank, and so, you know, they're doing a lot of crypto activity now. They actually just launching Equifi, which is their sister project right now as well. I'm you know, quite excited about, and you know, building in DeFi. So now you have a licensed regulated bank, you know, building in DeFi, and there's so much happening, and I think it is a natural kind of marriage, right? And they will be the first movers. You know, they can move probably much quicker than this traditional bank. So, and they should, because the opportunity is so immense.
Do you think there's a chance that traditional banks risk becoming redundant? Do you think these new applications and neobanks are moving fast enough to make these traditional banks redundant, or is it the capital? Because the capital behind traditional banks is obviously still far outweighs what these neobanks can pull together. So they've got the power in that.
So I would say no, and I think they will. I don't see a future in the near term where they don't all exist. So do you know where like a Revolut, where they hold their capital? Like their actual deposits are held with tier one banks. So
yeah.
So the banks are still underlying and underpinning the entire kind of. So they're basically kind of building on top of these layers almost, and the actual custody. And so, but at the same time, you know, like, do you know the average deposit at sitting at like Revolut right now is like, the average client balance is like $130, right?
Right. Yeah.
So like that number is going to be off, but it's low. It's for kids.
Yeah.
So people don't leave real capital. So yeah, the traditional banks will exist because, well, people there's not the confidence in it at the moment, and I don't see that really kind of coming. But the whole crypto element does definitely kind of change the narrative.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, because the thing is, you know, you have these corporates like Saylor leading the way on putting the reserves into BTC.
Yeah.
So what is that? How does that play into banking in the future? You know, I mean, you're still going to need, like, I mean, because he's not eschewing fiat per se. He's just saying storing wealth in BTC, because that's a nuanced thing that people really don't talk about. I mean, how do you see that working? Because I mean, if so, does a bank then just be really? Because I don't see, you know, I think when I started out in this journey, which is sort of like, okay, kind of a toppling, I wouldn't say toppling of the regime, but certainly a paradigm break from the centrality of everything, right? But if you have corporates, and then you might even have, you know, like the likes of El Salvador, what have you, start storing reserves in BTC, you still need some transactional or banking component, right? Even on a central level with these governments. Like, so what does that look like?
So that's just a stable coin, though, isn't it? You can do those things with a stable coin. I think the problem is that the stable coins are still centralized, and I don't think we have any proof yet that a decentralized stable coin is sustainable enough to exist for any period of time. So I think that would probably be the proving point from my perspective, at least. I think if it was possible, and if it could be made, and who knows, it probably still could be, but a decentralized stablecoin would, I think, be a catalyst for that potentiality to happen. Tim, I don't know, what do you think about that?
Well, anything that's going to be when you're connected to the traditional world, I mean, it has to be, especially at this stage, it's going to have to be kind of one-to-one backed in sitting with a financial institution or fractionally reserved, whatever Tether is to today. So yeah, I mean, this, algorithms of stable coins, they're not going to coexist into a traditional banking environment. And it's because they've there is no custody of an asset, and I don't see that ever really passing at this point. Especially, it has to be pegged, right? And so but you can custody it. Now, I mean, Circle's done a fantastic job what they've built out, and people for good or bad, I'm a big fan of this infrastructure they built out, all these crypto to fiat gateways that are almost instantaneous. The way that USDC is kind of implemented through smart contracts with all these like banking rail partners. So that's why moving money from in and out of exchanges with USDC and their partners is so fluid.
I think theoretically you could use Bitcoin as the custody anchor for a decentralized stablecoin, but you would need to do away with all of the volatility before that could happen. So I don't think it would be possible until we have some sort of scaled adoption where we've got an amount of people on there that is the majority. It's interesting. I don't know, just a thought. Because if you could do away with the volatility in Bitcoin, you theoretically you could peg and custody stable coins based off of what your Bitcoin holdings are. And as long as it remains more or less stable, then that could be a model, but we're a long way from Bitcoin being stable.
I just look at, I think let's be clear. I mean, because this is a whole rabbit hole, but I really wanted to touch on the bridge between Bitcoin as a store of wealth, and then what if you have these countries now acknowledging that, certainly if you have corporates using that as reserves, what then are they saying, okay, that's great now, but what am I using on a day-to-day basis? And maybe this is where kind of full circle ties back to CBDCs, right? So here's my digital wealth being stored here, and then I can then, I guess, liquidate X amount into these CBDCs that, you know, I think that's where the government's
you can issue against the value. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I see that, you know what, just, it's funny. Maybe that's what's happening now. People, that's interesting. I think that's a whole rabbit hole, but I'm just conscious of time because we're kind of closing in on an hour now. I wanted to say, so Tim, let's tie it there. So Tim, just maybe tell us a little bit about Yield app, just to kind of, so you can give yourself, give the audience a plug on Yield and what you're doing and where they could find you, and you know, where you know, how Yield is useful in today's DeFi market.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're a DeFi banking in your pocket, or crypto wealth management app, and so we make it easy for anyone to, you know, be able to embark on high yielding crypto investing. So we provide up to 20% APY on stable coins, and you know, we also have Ether and you know, Bitcoin investments now, and just continue to add more and more assets. So we get about 46,000 clients and close to $200 million AUM since our February launch. So we've had you know, great, you know, we have a great community, great, you know, adoption, great feedback, and we're keep iterating and building more and more products for our users. So yield.app, you can catch us on, you know, obviously social channels, on most active on Telegram, but you know, also follow us on Twitter.
Awesome.
Cool.
So we'll definitely be following you, and perhaps wink wink, there will be some sort of alignment with CDs and Yield app. TBC. I will say this. We, you know, thank you for being on our show, and we'd like to do something for your community. We'd like to do a $1,000 giveaway in CDs in our upcoming launch, which we have yet to announce. Big announcements coming soon. And we'd like to do that also with an avatar, since you seem to like our avatars. We'd like to do a giveaway avatar for your community. And we'll come, maybe, you know, offline, we'll come up with mechanics of you know, what that looks like, how to get everybody excited, and the avatar, and then, you know, we can even give you your own special avatar that you can use. And
very cool.
Yeah. I think
looking forward to that.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Yeah.
Cool. So just I'll make some final announcements, and we'll sign off. So again, Launch Pool is live, or the announcement is live. That is going live this Monday. We have 11 coins that you can stake against and earn CDs. It's a 30-day staking to earn pre-IDO CDs, APYs up to or over 400%, up to over 400%, probably higher, depending on multiples once launched. We can only speculate what that might be. We have announced our DJ Dog meme coin competition on Instagram. We'll go ahead and be plugging that on our Twitter and our socials. It just went live today, so we're going to get it out there. Instagram is pretty low right now, so I think it's a good way to build our Instagram. And we are officially the world's first, no one's disputed this yet, Tim. We are the world's first nano cap. That's a $99,000 initial market cap on IDO, which is happening soon. Again, announcements coming soon. Tomorrow, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, announcements coming soon. Join our Telegram, Twitter, Discord for updates. And we do also upload our episodes to Spotify for those that just want to listen to us, our pretty voices. And with that, Tim, thanks again for joining us. Tim, CEO of Yield app. It's a pleasure having you. And Yeah, we'll be shouting out to you on your socials and sharing videos.
Well, definitely, our community is going to be very excited. So, and definitely looking forward to the avatar. So, thanks, MC Liquid and DJ Chop. So it was a pleasure.
Awesome.
Thanks, Tim.
And then our famous sign out. I'm just going to make sure the production crew, Ice, is looking at me. In 3, 2, 1. Peace out, bitches.